on your television, you have to have recorded that program in order to utilize those functions, which you already have. So, and then you've got this very basic remote that's got a hair trigger to it, and it's quite bulky. It's often telling you, you know, you can't see the show anymore. Go give it another try, or that kind of stuff.
So correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know, but don't you need a contract with the legislative body, the trustees or something, to extend fiber optics and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I was part of the board of trustees when they renewed the contract, and I addressed the very poor quality of technical service that they provide, and basically it was just, you know, it was a 4-to-1 vote, and they just approved it. So you got at least another 7 years, I think, before you can discuss the contract itself. But on an individual basis, picking up the, I would not pick up the fiber optic system, A. B, I asked to go back to the cable analog, is it analog? I'm not, but that other system, and they won't let me go back anymore, so.
But a cable vision.
So wait, I want to recognize the county legislator, Engelbright, if you will.
Yes.
How are you this evening?
I am fine, thank you.
Your presentation is very professional, very impressive, and thank you for all the thoughts you put into it. I believe that it's important to preserve the train station. It's really national register. It's a national treasure as well as a local treasure. I don't think that it's a great idea to continue the at-grade crossing that we have. The solution to that, you know, there are several ways to skin a cat, and so the solution to that deserves more thought. At this moment, it seems to me one of the things that you should be trying to do is preserving your options. And I agree with your statement that this isn't going to happen in the next 15 minutes. I don't think you said it quite that way, but...
Can I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
But, you know, the MTA has not yet recovered really from COVID, and the revenue fall off has created congestion pricing and other chaos at the other end of the line. So it'll sort itself out over time, but it seems to me that it would be very useful to have a model such as the Great Neck Station, which is in a downtown area, as one option, and possibly other options. But the at-grade crossing is an anachronism, and does present a motivation for doing something. So preserving options, it seems to me, would be a really useful thing. So my first question is, have you had a chance to really compare notes with Sarah Lansdale and the county planner? My second question has to do with the proposed battery storage, which is on the border of that same area. It's at the triple junction of 3 school districts, including our Fort Jefferson district. And whether you had a chance for the people who are proposing this to come in and talk with you, and if that's something that you might be interested in seeing happen.
I won't comment on whether we want to see it happen, but I'll tell you that we have not had a conversation. Nobody has approached the village in any way that I know of about that conversation. So we definitely do want to have the conversation. I think that the village is formulating some opinions on that, but at this point, it's not my place to say what the village official opinion is on that. But we want to have conversations. Getting to the grade crossing Sure, we've sat around at night with a bottle of wine and talked about all sorts of Capelonian ideas on maybe tunneling coming up and coming out the other side, or a grade separation for the train, or moving it not as far east. We've talked about a lot of things. We haven't put anything to pencil, and we really haven't taken it beyond just, what could we do type of things. But I haven't had a conversation with economic development and planning about this since I left, so I'm probably due to have an update on their thoughts.
There's county property. And
Yeah.
before the county does something silly, your thoughts, I think, would be very important to be weighed in.
Right. I will speak to the mayor and the trustees, and we'll get an action plan going on it.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Let's get 3 more questions. 1, 2, 3. All right, please.
You had mentioned
Can you
the
speak up?
density, you had mentioned the density along from the train station to Northern Boulevard. Has there been any consideration about the hospitals and the actual time that it takes for vehicles and emergency vehicles to actually get to the hospitals, with all this construction? And a while back ago, I had heard that they, I guess the conifers wanted to make Perry Street 2-way. Right now, East Oakland, Perry, and Linden actually are 1-ways, and that they alleviate some of the traffic going out. So if they would have come inward, it would create a problem, I feel. And the other thing is, you had mentioned across the street of Northern Country, where Napa and those old buildings are. There's actually some historic buildings in that area, which you were talking about possibly being demolished to be part of this new plan. And I'm opposed to that, but I would like you to speak on this.
Not aware, at least in the conifer 2.
Not in Conifer too,
Okay.
no, but on the proposed one that
Right,
you were saying,
right.
at that corner, where the Smile building, dental building is.
building, yeah.
And then there's a 1910 blue building behind it, which is in very good conditions.
So I'll take another look at that. I wasn't aware of any historic buildings or designated buildings, but I'll take a look at that.
I mean, it's good. Buildings quickly turn from good to bad once somebody stops maintaining it. And they always look for, in my opinion, to get them as bad shape as they can so they can get some.
Thank you for being here and giving us the information that you have. We're always wondering what's going on as we drive by, and now we have a much clearer picture. Thank you. And just very briefly, if I can, in the 1970s, early 70s, when we first came here, it was,
Speak up.
oh, I'm sorry. In the 1970s, when my wife and I first came here, it was semi-rural, or almost rural, then semi-rural. Now we're suburban. We're becoming more urban. And as you pointed out, we live in an area of highly educated people, professional people, a lot of students. And the one thing that we don't have, and I've pushed for this for years and I think it's time to do it again, is an appropriate place for our cultural interest to be shown and attended. We don't have an auditorium, we have flat floors. And when you mention community benefit,
Yeah.
that developers could pay money to build a community center, you said.
Mhm.
And we have 6 acres of land up there that we already own. If we, as I proposed many, many years ago, had a small performance center, cultural center, community auditorium, I think that that would benefit everybody, because that when you get something like that uptown, which many of us over the years have never used because, all the standard shops, hardware and everything had moved out, then you get a different group, a different use, a different mix. Just like what the Brooklyn Academy did for Brooklyn. Just like Lincoln Center did for that part of town. People fought it, but now they enjoy it. So could that come into the concept of community development, of community benefit?
Yes.
And that means all of us, not just the people who are gonna occupy that area. We're desperate for it, like other communities have already done it. Smithtown had it. These are rental facilities. It's not just a single use. I've spoken to Theater 3, they would love it, because they can't rent it. I've spoken to the Scholar Center. That's not a rental facility, they would love it too, because people are always knocking on their door. Just a consideration.
Okay, it's on our list, it's on the punch list.
And have them maybe build it and run it.
It's always a possibility.
Okay, get that in your mind.
It's on the
Culture.
punch list.
We got all of our balls in order, but we don't have culture.
All right, Janice?
I also thank you for educating us and for being here. It's much appreciated. Also, the 6 acres, we also would like that area, that little Texaco Park is minute open space for enjoying outdoors for whoever lives up in town. There's a lot of mixed density and high density residential areas along that whole area. The 6 acre park is like in a perfect location. So if they want to build a 4th level, which would mean they would have to give back to the community, that's the space to use it for culture, for parkland, for paying to rip out all the the invasives there and do something nice for the community. Lawrence Aviation is not as far away as you think. It's right there. Before you get to Dark Hollow,
Yeah, it's right over
there is Lawrence Aviation, not far at all.
There's Willis, it's
So
in here.
when we hope for the new location, when MTA decides to finally electrify our line, it would be, the proposals to put it there, make so much sense, and it's not far. It is a 5 to 10 minute walk. It's less than a quarter mile from.
Well, walkability, I'll give you what I feel. Walkability, if I wanted to walk to the train, I wouldn't want to walk more than 5 minutes, especially on a cold day, on a rainy day.
Yeah.
We want the model of walkability to be walkable. So once you start getting out of that 5 minute walk, then you're talking about, all right, now maybe somebody needs a skateboard or a scooter or something to make it less than that amount of time. And sure, you could bring it out a mile, but now you're talking about micro vehicles, electric bikes and things like that. But true walkability is within 5 minutes, a quarter mile radius from that point.
Well,
It just doesn't seem to me, the further away you pull it from what we're investing in to be a walkable community, to have it that far away.
but it
It's not
solves
convenient
so
for
many
anyone.
problems. It solves other problems.
Well, there's no one solution, and there's no one, it's a combination of problems and a combination of solutions, but that's part of the discussion, is how far away should we move?
3 more questions.
you.
We have 1, 2, 3. We go.
So Andy, with the conifers in particular, how do we hold developers' feet to the fire? It seems to me that when they talk about open space, we get like, I think conifer one, and I can't remember the details, I think you might, they said, oh, there's a balcony, or there's 5, and then this lousy $25,000, they cleared a forest. That was Mather, right? They
Yes.
cleared a forest. Oh, here's $25,000. How do we get how do we hold their feet to the fire, and how do we get, I guess we all have to show up at meetings, our trustees, the board, whatever, to hold these developers' feet to the fire, to make them give us what they said they were gonna give us, and make it an equitable transaction? Because I feel like, when I look at the, what's the one where the Port Jeff Lobster used to be? There's no setback. It's like you drive down the street and it's like gonna crash on you.
Yeah.
And it's all bricked up. Are they gonna have stores down there? It just feels like we don't get what we're promised.
Well,
And that makes me furious.
doing pretty good right
You're
now.
doing great.
We like
And-
you.
And you're great. We're glad
Some
you're here.
scares and dags at me, but in the commercial business district, there are minimum setbacks from curbs, number one. So we have to know, you need to come to meetings, you need to listen, you need to speak up, you need to talk. Open space for a project is two things: the open space for the community on that site, and then open space for the larger neighborhood. Okay, so what you're looking at the Conifer is what they proposed for their residents, their little open space, which is a terrace up on the top there. Again, I wasn't here, but that conformed. I don't know, I'd have to go back, but we got a park fee, we got certain things, and those are sprinkled around the neighborhood to assist the neighborhood.
But we see the people
But-
sitting out there in wheelchairs, there's not even a green space, they're sitting in the parking lot of the train station, they're sitting on curbs, it breaks my heart, it's just, it's so thoughtless.
Well, we might have been able to do a better job on landscaping
Yeah.
and some of that, but there's plenty of opportunities still to go back and do that through other venues. But what you see, you just have to know how it got there, and we need to look at the code and things like that. And as you know, this is a process, and there are public hearings, and there's input from everybody, and the planning board who makes those decisions does the best they can. To get what, you say, get what you want out of what they promised, if there are covenants and restrictions and they're not being enforced, that's on us. But I'm not sure on what specific you're talking about, that they were supposed to give us something that we didn't get, I don't know. But
Were we accepted less than, like, in the $25,000 for clearing a forest? Here, buy some trees, you know, it's just, here's $25,000. I don't know, it
Go
just,
away.
it seems like we get the raw end of the deal a bit, so I just want that to stop somehow.
Eric?
Simple question. You had mentioned earlier that the,
Louder.
okay, we have a population of about 7,500 right now, and you say we're gonna have about 1,000 more residents uptown.
yes.
Does the village have any long-term idea, view, plan of what the eventual population of Port Jefferson is gonna be? Is there gonna be any kind of density limitation? Will we reach 50,000 people? Yeah, you know, just.
I do not know of any kind of cap on the population for the village. I don't know that we have one. I think COVID changed the world. Okay, COVID changed the world. We don't have as much retail demand on our retail spaces. We don't have, shopping is totally different when it comes to retail, right? Office demand is way down. Roughly 40% demand on both of those are down. So we're looking at projects from a different angle. People are coming in with different types of projects, different styles of the way they want to do things, reacting to people. Don't know if we'll ever get 500 units uptown Port Jefferson. That was the max that was calculated for all the impact statements, and if you're going to get one of those developments, they would feed into that analysis to see. So it was analyzed, that saturation population of 1,000 people uptown, 500 units, 1,000 people. That was analyzed. There's no cap though, and because of COVID, we don't even know now if we'll get that kind of development, if the retail is having a hard time getting a footing uptown. So we may have to be a little creative as we go, and we may not ever get to that population projection. Having said that, Long Island as a whole is pretty stable in their population growth right now, if not decreasing. So pockets are growing, pockets are shrinking. We still need to see what's gonna happen with Port Jeff. But the 2030 plan, that's supposed to be implemented by 2030. So we're in the last 5 years. We've got speculators going all over the place, so it was scheduled out pretty good on how it was supposed to be implemented. But when we hit 2030, we may not have all the projects, we may have more projects, and we'll see. Everything's going to be based on how we can mitigate the impacts. How can we handle wastewater? How can we handle the traffic? How can we handle water demand? All that stuff comes in, and sooner or later, there'll be that one project that just can't make it. There's no capacity in the sewer district. There's no, the water pressure. You can't get the water up to the second floor. All these things that happen when you get to be a dense, developed, maxed out community, we're not there yet. But we don't know how fast or if we'll ever get to that point, just because of the way the world has changed since 2000.
2020.
We can,
This conversation of having a shuttle from the university to the Colchester train station, going back and forth between the Long Island Railroad schedules. If you move the train station over to Lawrence Aviation, you would have that easy path for a shuttle back and forth from the communities that you're, and the apartments that you're building, go right to the train station. And they can go back and forth in, 5 and 10 minute schedule, bringing people right to the train station. You cut down on all your vehicle traffic and such. It's a concept you should look at.
We look at shuttles all the time. We look at scoots on the train itself. We look at things. None of these things are self-sustaining. In order to charge the ticket that you need to charge for a shuttle or a scoot or something like that, you're talking a lot of money per ticket. So we have to subsidize things. And so the problem is that with all these shuttles and things like that, we don't have the continuous subsidy funding to keep these things running. You can't charge people $20 to go from uptown to downtown or from here to Stony Brook or whatever the fee may be. It's not going to be self-sustaining for the shuttle. So it always has to be subsidized. And in my opinion, that's why they generally end, because the funding to subsidize these things just is not continuous. Mass transit, if you ask me personally, it's not an official statement anywhere, it just doesn't support itself. You can look at Manhattan, it's got the highest land use density going, and the mass transit system is not self-sustaining. So density is not the issue. Don't know how to get these shuttle programs to work unless there's a continuous funding source to keep them running. And since I was in the village 30 years ago, we've never been able to get a continuous shuttle service running. Stony Brook is running a shuttle for their students, and that comes out, I believe, some of that funding comes out of the student activity fund. So there's always extra funding in addition to the fare you may have to pay to keep these things going. It's a great idea, and I wish we could get it to go, because that would help out TODs and other areas to get to other places. We live in suburbia. You still need a car. You may not need 2 cars per family. You can get an Uber or something, but we still need a car. So it's tough dealing with those issues.
Alrighty, let's wrap up. I know, we have until, we need to get out of here at 8:45. We can continue mingling here, and I hope you can stay for.
I can
for
stay.
11.
And the last, wait, too soon. The last thing I want to do is, the Economic Development Committee, as I said, has been working on uptown, working on downtown, working on all over the area. See, I did it again. We're looking for a moniker now for uptown. We want to change the name. Okay. Enough people have said that, Upper Port, uptown. It's not a good connotation for us. We want to change the name. So the Economic Opportunity Task Force is challenging you folks to submit names. I can't tell you what you probably know what the preferred name is at the moment, but that's not necessarily a name that might keep going on. But we'd like you to come up with some names for that area, the C2 district by the train station. Okay? We don't want to call it Upper Port anymore. We don't want to call it uptown, downtown. Come up with something different.
All right. We have a little bit of the party. We have some cookies. We have some cider. Please stay. Please mingle. Our next meeting will be in January, and we will be discussing battery issues. Thank you so much.